Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to day 2 of the Indie Game Business Winter Sessions 2020. This morning, first up, we've got Jordan Morris in, no pressure, Jordan, our most requested talk of the, conference. He's going to be going over how to build an audience for your game on social media, something that we all have to figure out how to do at some point. So with that, Jordan, I'm going to step back out of the way and let you go with it.
Okay, thank you. It's great to be here. Well, I was very surprised actually that you reached out to me to do this, but I'm super grateful. Also surprised to hear that it's the most requested. But anyway, on to the actual presentation then. This is how to build an audience for your game on social media as an indie dev, and mainly on Instagram and Twitter because that's the ones that I know most. Just a quick disclaimer, like this is not like a list of hacks or 20 hacks or 10 things you must do. I don't really believe in that sort of stuff. I think this presentation is for you to kind of get into the mindset of how social media works and then how you can adapt it to like your situation or your game. So with that said, let's just get started. So who am I? I'm Jordan Morris. I'm just some regular dude that just started coding like a year ago. I absolutely love game development now. It's something like a newfound passion of mine. I founded my own indie studio this year as well called Mr. Morris Games. I know, super original. Over that year or year and a half while I was learning, I managed to gain like over 11,000 followers on social media. So this is Instagram and Twitter combined. With that following, I'd like to say that part of my success on Kickstarter was thanks to the community that I had built. I managed to raise $39,000 on Kickstarter for my game Haiku the Robot, which I'm currently developing, which is awesome. So I quit my job, last week, and now I'm here working on this. So just quickly, what topics do we want to cover? So first of all, we need to understand what this whole presentation is about. Like, why is social media important? Then we'll go into like the basics and the fundamentals, like things that I want you to think about while managing your social media accounts. We'll go over my 2 main accounts, which is just Instagram and Twitter. But most of the stuff that you will learn here, you can apply to other things like Imager, Reddit, Facebook, whatever. It's just getting you sort of in that frame of mind in order to adapt it to your game and your situation. I want to kind of cover my biggest pet peeve. I don't know if it's entirely related, but I feel like I need to mention it since I have the opportunity. And after that, we'll do like a quick recap as well. So first of all, why is it important? It's important because obviously you want to get eyeballs on your game, and the best thing about social media for me is that you can do this organically. You can do this for free, and organic traffic, is much better than paid traffic because organic, they're like actively looking for it. They're actively interested in it, and they want to know more about your game. They want to follow, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas paid is kind of a bit more like you're kind of pushing it to them, and sometimes, people don't like stuff being pushed on them or they don't want it. So I see that as like a big benefit. It helps reach new potential players as well. And more importantly, it helps you build a community around your game. So I think this is amazing because if you have a community, if you have fans, then these are the people that are later going to go out and be advocates for your game. They're going to go out and promote your game, suggest your game to other people. And yeah, they're just great. Like you want to, the end goal is you want to build like a community. There's also a bonus that I feel like I have to mention. You can use it as a testing ground for testing new ideas. I have some examples of that later. I do this quite frequently. And also, fans keep you motivated. If you're just like a single guy like myself or a small team, you get into this bubble of, nothing's ever good enough or whatever. And, if you post stuff out there and you get a lot of positive feedback from it, then it keeps you motivated and it keeps you moving forward. By the way, I'm going to drink a lot of water in this presentation because I get thirsty very quickly. So let's just jump straight into like understanding the basics or the fundamentals of social media. First things first is you need to look at how the social media platform is built. So this is like the first thing you should be doing. And the two examples that I got here, we got Instagram in the middle and then Twitter on the right. So Instagram in the middle, you can already see that there's a big picture, like slap bang in the middle. It takes up half of the screen. I'm using mobile screenshots because even though we're game developers and we're always on our computers, I would like to think most of the world or the rest of the world actually browses social media on their phone more than on their laptops like we do. But as you can see, it's a big picture. And actually, if you pay attention to the caption, it's actually, really small line and it's hidden behind this more button. So that tells me, and it should tell you, that, Instagram puts a lot of importance on visuals. So this is knowledge that you need to use while you're preparing content for this platform. Twitter is slightly different. It's quite text heavy. They don't cut any of the text unless it's, in a thread or something, and the images are slightly smaller. The next thing I want you to think about is, put yourself in the mind of somebody who's just browsing social media. Like, what do they do? Like, how do they find new content? How do they find your profile, etc.? So, in these screenshots here, I've tried to very kind of simply put it. Let's say you're browsing the explore page on Instagram, or you're, looking for a hashtag or anything like that. You come across a post that you like, you might leave a like, you might comment, but if you're really interested, then what you usually do is you usually go to the profile to see what else that person posts. And then there you would make a decision whether this content is good enough for you in the future to follow and want to, see more of. Same thing can be applied to Twitter, just slightly different. But same principle, you browse Twitter, you see something you like, you check their profile. Twitter has this pinned tweet, which I think is probably the most important aspect of your profile, let's say. And then there's this little media tab, but to be honest, I don't actually use it that much, but I'm not sure if other people do. But I thought it's good to mention, you might browse what sort of pictures they post and then decide to follow. So same sort of thing applies. So if we break it down and put it simply, then usually it's browsing an explore page or a hashtag. You see something you like, you obviously open it, you check out the post or the tweet or whatever, and then you check out the profile to see, do they post this sort of content regularly? Is this something that you're going to be interested in seeing in the future? And if it is, then you follow. Obviously, this is just kind of one journey, let's say, but really there's a lot more journeys as well. For example, if somebody was just to share your post on Instagram or Twitter in this story or a fleet now, and they leave your handle, somebody might click on your handle and arrive directly at your profile. But what I want to say is each step is equally important. Just to go over some of the terminology as well, just so we're on the same page, I just wanted to quickly kind of refresh your mind of what everything is. So likes and comments, quite self-explanatory. These are ranked relatively low in the algorithm. Then you have saves and bookmarks, which are really interesting, I think, because for me personally, I use save and bookmarks a lot. It's so easy to see something that you like and then just never ever see it again, right? So using a save or a bookmark can help you find that later. And Instagram, Twitter, the algorithm, they pick up on this. They think, okay, if people are saving this to view it later, then it must be important. Shares and retweets are also, people sharing your stuff with their following. So in the eyes of the algorithm, then obviously, this stuff is also important. There's some kind of hidden metrics that I think, it's good to kind of shed light on that people don't usually consider or even think about. One of them is time spent on a post. So if you have an engaging caption with an image, let's just say take Instagram, for example, you have an image and then you have a nice caption of you explaining how to do stuff or whatever, then the more time people spend on that post, reading the caption, looking at the image, etc., then, it just adds points to that post's value, let's say. Direct follows also are important. Post reach is also something that you should be looking at occasionally. That just kind of tells you whether your hashtags are working and if it's shared or retweeted a lot. Also now stories are kind of important, and we have fleets on Twitter now, which is kind of the new thing. But on Instagram especially, then they have these little widgets that you can use. So you can have like voting, you can use like these sliders, you can ask questions, you can do quizzes, all sorts of stuff. And I've actually seen a direct correlation between the amount of engagement that widgets get versus the views. So basically what Instagram would do was, if these widgets get a lot of engagement, they will show it to more of your following. And the same happens for replies. Like if people are replying to your stories, then that's also like a good signal. And I think if you reply back, and you're having conversations in private that kind of triggered from a story, then I think that also, helps a little bit. So all these little things, you should be mindful of that help kind of boost your worth or rank in the eyes of the algorithm. So there's one thing I want to mention before you get started as well. So before you post anything, you should really be thinking about like what's your online brand and like what's your personality. So if you're an indie dev, then this can be applied to like if you're just a solo indie dev, or it can be applied to if you're even a small team. You might think it's easier for an indie dev, but I've seen teams also do really well with this. You just have to be personal and be kind of yourself, and that's it. But some of the things that you should consider, and like the things that I've considered, is what sort of colors do you want your post to be? So for me, this is like kind of a nice, easy way to have that consistent visual feed. Like I use the color orange a lot on my feed. My company logo is orange. I use the the orange love heart for everything. Even this presentation is orange, if you hadn't noticed already. So like this is kind of the theme that I run with. I just pick the color orange and I kind of go with that. Fonts are also kind of important to remember. You want to pick like clear fonts or stick to the same font. Art style as well. So for me, it's pixel art. Even if I would put a picture that has high resolution, I would try to put, some sort of pixel art banner around it. Try and like incorporate pixel art into the picture at least, somehow. Some other considerations as well is like tone of voice. So when I'm with like friends, then I swear a lot. But on my online presence, then I decided that I don't want to do that. One, because I felt like it's not necessary. And two, I wanted to, make my content or anybody, my audience, kind of family friendly. So this is something that you should consider as well. I would suggest that you make some sort of rules for yourself. These don't have to be like completely set in stone, but they should just be like guidelines. And of course, these guidelines can kind of evolve over time. You don't need to stick to them from the very beginning all the way to the end. I also put like a little question there of how personal do you want to get? For me, I think it's important that, I'm on this journey of becoming an indie developer, and I want to share my progress as I go with people, because I personally want to motivate other people to do the same. So you should think, how personal do you want to be? When I get excited about something, then I'm pretty much immediately on Twitter tweeting about it, like in that moment while I'm feeling the excitement, sharing the excitement with the community and the following. So let's jump into Instagram already. Like a lot of this stuff can be applied to other platforms as well, but just to kind of categorize it a little bit, then we're gonna check over Instagram. So remember, the key thing for Instagram is that it's a visual platform. Like this is the number one thing that you need to remember when doing Instagram or anything on Instagram, is that it's visual. So this basically means, you need pretty pictures. Essentially, people go on Instagram to look at pretty pictures. That's why you see all these highly saturated, beautiful land shots, not screenshots, but like land shots and all sorts of stuff like this, right? So you need to kind of mimic that sort of feeling as well. So post good, pretty pictures, and also you need to make sure that your feed is nicely curated. It's not like a mix of images, like, you have too many selfies and then pictures of your dog and I don't know what else, like try and keep it consistent. Also, like, you need to remember, if we go back to this journey flow, that your posts are basically your gateway to your account. If you don't put up good looking pictures or good looking posts, then people aren't going to click on it when they're browsing the explore page or the hashtag page. Therefore, they're not going to go through this flow and end up onto your account. So, it's important. So another question that I get as well is repurposing. No, sorry. Like what can you post on Instagram? So these are kind of free things that I just felt like I wanted to share. It's not like an exhaustive list that you must do this. I encourage you to like experiment and find out what works for you as well. But I thought I'd just share this anyway because I think it's some kind of good ideas or good pointers. So first thing is repurposing your game art. If you're spending all day working on the game every day, even if it's just doing, sprites or visual effects or whatever, it can even be like something code related. You can take a picture, you can make it into a square post, you can repurpose your art into a square post, and then publish it onto Instagram. So here, there's also a great example from Biggie, even though this is a tweet, but he still posted it on Instagram. So he took all of the animations from the character and basically transformed them into like this sort of square with a bunch of panels on like the different animations. And this is great because, it's something that you've worked hard on for the game, and it probably takes, 15, 20 minutes to actually put together an Instagram post and post it. Once you kind of start building a bit more of a following, then people like to see, progress. So here we have like on the right, an old picture, and then on the left, in the middle, sorry, there's kind of a newer recent picture. Usually I would explain like what's been updated, what have you done and stuff like this. Try and, capture people or like to read the caption, and then, that just helps kind of your post score better in the future. One thing that I will say about short clips is to keep them short. I see like a lot of these clips where it's like a minute long of just some gameplay, and it doesn't seem like much is going on. Like you'd be walking through a level, unless like your game is heavily focused on level design and stuff like this, then maybe it's different. But if you're just kind of walking through a level and there's not much happening, then I don't think people really want to see that. You could do like a bunch of short clips altogether, but then I feel like you're also just exhausting kind of the content that you have. So in my experience, it's better to just do short clips, like really focus on what you want to show, and that's it. Because at the end of the day, people are just on their phone, and all they're doing is just browsing to, take their mind off of something, and that's basically it. So you don't want, people to be locked there for a whole minute watching your clip and then nothing really happens, because they're just going to be annoyed. Also, like once you have a bit more of a stronger community, then polls are pretty cool, because, like if you get stuck on something, and as like a solo developer or a small team, it can be quite easy to get stuck on some ideas. I had like millions, well, not millions, but like tens of health bars drawn out, and I was discussing them with my partner, like which ones we like most, and we couldn't come to a decision between us. So I thought, you know what, I'll just chuck my favorite ones onto a square post and then post it on Instagram. And to my surprise, it got actually like a lot of comments and, like an insane reach within my following as well. And this felt good, like it was a good indicator for me to know that, people cared about how the health bar looked. One thing that I will say is really, in order to kind of pull this type of post off, is you need somewhat of a community already built. So you need some sort of following, because a lot of times I see people trying to kind of game the algorithm in a sense, and all they do is they think, okay, if I post polls, people are going to comment, people are going to get engaged, and that's going to boost me in the algorithm. But I honestly think that if you're trying to do that, people can actually see it through. And, it's better to actually pick stuff that you're genuinely stuck on And, that way when people comment, they feel like that their comment or their opinion actually has some weight, and you're not just trying to trick them into, boosting the algorithm for your own personal gain. So hashtags, like basically this is the main discovery mechanism on Instagram. We'll get into Twitter's Instagram a bit later, Twitter's discovery mechanism a bit later, but for now, Instagram hashtags are your main discovery. So I think you can use up to like 30 hashtags in total. I've read from numerous places that you shouldn't do that. I don't know how legit that is, but to be honest, I think it's hard to come up with 30 relevant hashtags for something that you've done. So usually I stick to like 15 to 20 hashtags and that's it. But it's super important to keep them relevant. Like you don't want to be using hashtag pixel art and then uploading like a selfie of yourself or something like that. Because, if people are looking through the hashtag pixel art, they expect to see pixel art. And if they see a selfie, then they're not going to bother like opening it or checking it. One tip for finding out what hashtags to use is to check what other people are doing. And also I would just say, just experiment. Like after a while, once you've experimented with a few hashtags, you kind of get a feeling of what works for what certain posts. For example, in this one, I usually put like a bunch of enemy designs for a certain area. And I usually put the hashtags like character design, enemy design, character art, etc. So like you start to get an understanding of what hashtags work better with what certain posts. And to check like how good hashtags are, I would say you need to check the reach. So when you click this view insights button on your post, then you can check the reach and you can kind of gauge, like it's very kind of guessing which hashtags work, but you kind of get a feeling in the end. So again, I just want to reiterate the importance of using hashtags, when people are using the explore page or browsing a hashtag page, then, this is their kind of entry point to your profile. So another question that I get as well is, when should you post? First of all, I would say you should post when you can, so what time of the day is best for you to post, and it's best for you to reply to comments and interact with your community, because remember, at the end of the day, your goal is actually really to build a community on social media. Because those will be like your biggest advocates in the future. You can check your most active times in the insight section of the app. Usually when I click like days, it's just a straight bar. So I assume everybody's on it every single day at the exact same time. But the more interesting one is hours. So this kind of can tell you when you should post at what hour. So luckily for me, 6 p.m. is great because, I finish work then. I have the whole evening to kind of reply to comments, interact with the community. I mean, usually most evenings I'll just be like watching TV or playing a game or eating food. So that's what works best for me. So I would say first you should look at, when can you be most active? And then secondly, when is your kind of following most active? And if these two, match up, then great. And if not, then don't worry about it too much. Another question as well is, how frequently should I post? So these kind of go hand in hand. Unfortunately, this is kind of the part that I really, really, really dislike about social media is you have to post frequently or somewhat frequently in order to, maintain positioning in these indie games. So basically, in these hashtags. So basically, if you post, your post might be in the top post for like a week, and then eventually it will drop off because more posts are coming in. So this is like where, you need to post frequency. The reason why I don't like this is because it kind of puts a lot of stress on us content creators, because, in order just to stay relevant, we have to constantly try and push out content all the time. So my suggestion is you set yourself some sort of level of quality that you want to push out. So for me, it's not super high. I don't do like amazing posts every day, but it's not super low either. I try to remove all the low effort posts as much as possible. So it's somewhere in the middle where I feel like it's a nice balance. And for me, I can maintain like a schedule of 3 times a week. That's like my max. I cannot post more than 3 times a week. Comfortably, it's actually twice a week, and sometimes I will drop down to just twice a week. But yeah, so my suggestion is to kind of pick a schedule that's more comfortable for you and try and maintain some sort of level of quality in your posts, but don't go like too low and don't go too high, because otherwise you'll spend too much time on it. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure if you go high and high enough and you can maintain like a high frequency of posting, then you'll probably do really well. But for your own mental health and for your sake, I wouldn't suggest doing it. So one of the upsides of actually posting frequently is that, you do actually have multiple entry points to your profile page. And that's where people, you can convince people about your game and get them to follow for more updates in the future. So here in this example, Soulflame Game has done a great example of, has done a great job of having 2 posts in #IndieGames. So now that's doubled his chances of somebody reaching his profile page and potentially, being interested in the game and then following. This doesn't apply just only to the same hashtags, but you can apply that to like many hashtags as well. So you have like multiple entry points from all over the place coming to your profile page, which is what you want. All right, so this is kind of a bit counterintuitive since the whole presentation is about how to build an audience. But for your own sake, I would suggest that you ignore the likes and the follows. People follow and unfollow all the time. It's just, life. You have different interests. You like one thing one day, a month later, you don't like it anymore. People's opinions change. So don't worry about it too much, because they do go up and they do go down. Also, I've noticed that, you put a lot of effort into in a post and then it just doesn't do well. Like in your mind, you're thinking, oh, this is like my best post yet. And then it just flops, or it doesn't flop, but it doesn't, meet your expectations. So, and usually these expectations are based off of likes. So that's why I'm saying, don't just look at the likes. If you are going to look at anything, then I would suggest you look at comments, saves and shares, and also look at the types of comments. So like in this example, again, when I posted these UI elements, it was really encouraging for me to see how many people replied and how many people cared about the UI elements of my game. So like it's just like a good indicator that you're on the right track. Like these types of posts are like the ones that you should be doing, because they have, like legitimate engagement and people are genuinely interested and genuinely care for your game. So these are the things that you should be focusing on. Last point on Instagram as well, and this probably applies to other things, is I've tried gaming the algorithm. I'm pretty sure most of you have done this Google search on like how to gain followers, and there's like always giveaways and competitions and stuff like that. So I just wanted to show you like 2 examples here. One is just a boss fight clip. It's like, I think it's the first clip of that boss fight. So, okay, maybe it's a new boss fight. People get excited about it, versus a Steam key giveaway. So the goal of a Steam key giveaway is to get more profile visits, right? And more reach. And here in this example, you can see that it didn't really do that. I mean, it got a few profile visits because, of course, people do check it out. But what I basically want to say with this slide is that you're better off just focusing on like good quality content and trying to and slowly growing your following and community as the game progresses, versus trying to become like overnight sensation or get a quick jump or a quick hack on how to get like more followers in a short period of time. All right, so Twitter. Twitter is a text-heavy platform, as we mentioned before, but it's also visual. So that means, like a lot of the learnings actually from Instagram can be applied here as well. There's just a few differences. So let's have a look. So Twitter's much more forgiving, in my opinion, because you have this pinned tweet, which is basically like your main tweet. That's the one where people will decide whether to follow you or not. And then secondarily, you have this media kind of tab where you can scroll and check like some more images and stuff. On Instagram, though, you have this long, big visual feed. So that's, you need to pack that out with a lot of content in order to convince people to follow. Whereas on Twitter, it's, you don't actually need as much. In fact, the only real visual feed on Twitter is from the desktop view. And if we go back to, us indie devs are always on the computer, then I'm pretty sure we only see the desktop view, and most people don't even see this little box in the corner. But what I wanted to say was like, it's a lot easier to manage these 6 pictures versus like in this one screen here on Instagram, we have 15 pictures. So if, it's a lot harder to create a 15 picture feed than it is a 6. So I think that's kind of interesting. So once I made this realization on Twitter, again, this is, when you study the platform, you need to kind of think what things matter and what things don't. I thought, YOLO, I'm just going to experiment and have fun. And I have, to be honest. Like, I think it's great. You can post all sorts of stuff there. So, for example, I posted like some finished stuff or like a polished image. Like if it works well on Instagram, it works well on Twitter, I would say. But then also just random text, like you're in the moment, you feel motivated. Like in this example, it's Motivation Monday. I tweeted it, and yeah, you just experiment and have fun. Also, work in progress stuff works a lot better. It feels like Twitter is a much more raw platform. You can kind of post stuff that's not finished yet. And also with this, you're kind of testing the water. So this is actually like the 3rd image that I posted of this motherboard idea. And to see the kind of engagement that it was getting and people were getting excited about it, it kind of made me think, maybe this is a good post for Instagram. So, you can use Twitter as well to kind of test the waters and get ideas that you can also convert into an Instagram post. One thing I want to mention as well is that discoverability on Twitter is awesome. It's much more easier than Instagram's. I think that might be one of the reasons why I kind of like Twitter a lot at the moment. So there's this little, I don't know what you call it, like icon or text. So basically, my buddies here, Beaumont and 2 others, have liked this person's post, and then Twitter does that. It now shows it to me. But the only problem with this is that it kind of puts you into a bubble. So, Beaumont and my buddies were all kind of indie devs, and they're all liking other indie devs, and all of us indie devs are now in like a bubble bouncing around together. So it's kind of quite hard to kind of get out of that bubble, right? So what I would suggest is you use hashtags to get out. Of course, these Screenshot Saturday, Pitch a Game, Made with Unity are all game related or indie dev related hashtags, but you can use hashtags which are related to your genre, for example. So, Metroidvania for me, or an art style, so pixel art, or any other sort of relevant hashtag for that matter. You can use hashtag gaming if you feel really brave and hope that it might start trending on gaming hashtag. So this is the visual representation of your hashtag burst in the bubble. Lastly, as well, I think this applies to both platforms or any platform, is just to be yourself and to be genuine. People are following you just as much as the game. And this is especially the case if you are an indie developer or if you're a small team. Take the time and effort to reply to comments, interact with your fans. At the end of the day, these are the biggest assets. Like, they will go out and promote your game. They will tell others about your game. They will, do fan art about your game. They will just naturally share your game and honestly, these are the best type of people that you want to look after. Lastly, don't try and game the system, and have fun with it. So, what's my biggest pet peeve? For those of you that don't know what a pet peeve is, because I understand there's some foreign people that English might not be their first language. Pet peeve basically means what's the thing that annoys me the most, or what grinds my gears. So it's links. Now, I'm not trying to call anybody out here, and the example, or the bad example that I put on the left, they kind of have a different purpose. They're not trying to promote a game, but it was just something that I thought, illustrates what I'm trying to convey well. So my biggest pet peeve is that you should really just pick one link, like one call to action. What is it that the person who's visiting your profile wants to do? In the case of dude, where is my beer? They have a link, dude is where is my beer.com/Steam, and then the link actually in the Twitter link section, which is dude, where is my beer.com, which I believe is the same page anyway. So they're just basically pointing you to one page, and that's to wishlist the game on Steam. Versus on the left, where we have, so if we break it down, we have actually 3 links. So we have a YouTube link, then we have a bit.ly link, and then we have a third website at the bottom. And then on top of that, so that's already 3 things that, we can click on. And that's a lot of options already. On top of that, we now have hashtags, which are also colored blue, and we have handles, which are also colored blue. So in total, there is now 9 things for the person to click on as soon as they visit your profile. So like, this is just, for me, it's overwhelming. And there's a term in like neuromarketing or something, and it's called choice paralysis. So it's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and there's so many things on the menu that you don't know what to pick, right? So this is the same. So my advice is just to pick one link and just stick with it. And this applies also to tweets, just pick one call to action. So what is it that you want the person to do? And you want to keep ideally the blue text as separate as possible. So right at the top, I've put like to pitch a game. So it's clear that this is a hashtag. And then at the bottom, I've put the link where it says where the call to action is, which is wish list, maybe. And then you can see again my little orange love heart that I use. If I was to put that pitch a game at the bottom somewhere, then it might be confusing, or somebody might accidentally click on something else, and you really don't want it. You kind of want to make it as easy as possible for the person that's visiting your profile or visiting your tweet or doing the action that you want them to do. You just want to make it super, super easy. My second pet peeve, because I still don't know how I feel about this, is bit.ly links versus full URLs. Now, I've used bit.ly links, but for me, it's kind of got this feeling of, can it be trusted? Like, is it a phishing attempt? Are they trying to steal my data or my identity? So it's just something that I felt like I wanted to raise, and just so you can be mindful of. Store.steampower.com is kind of a well-known domain. So obviously people are going to trust that a bit more. So just to recap, the number one thing that I think you should do when you start any social media account is to think of the user journey. So what is it that people do on social media? And then use that to your advantage to think, okay, what do I need to do in order to get into that journey? Let's say use hashtags, have like good looking pictures, and then having like a curated feed. Secondly, Instagram is a visual platform. So remember, you need to post good looking pictures, make sure you have like a nice looking feed, and also post frequently. Twitter is a bit of both, actually. Visuals are good because, they're still quite big, but text is also good. And for me, that's just a signal to kind of experiment and just kind of, be a bit more loose with it. But these sort of learnings as well, and this sort of ideology can be still applied to like, Reddit or Imager and stuff like this. Like, you should really analyze the platform that you're kind of post on and just see like how does it work. Again, ignore the likes and follows. I know it's counterintuitive, but it's better to focus on the long-term sort of indicators of like how many comments are you getting? What type of comments are they? Are they like, do people really care? Are they excited? Are they, engaging with what you've posted? It's much better to focus on stuff like that than it is just to have like a short burst of likes. Because yeah, it feels great to have like, I don't know, your first post hit like 1,000 likes, like it's an awesome feeling, but it soon wears off. And, if you keep chasing that every single day or every single week, then you're going to get very tired and burnt out pretty soon. Lastly, be yourself. So, at the end of the day, you are a human interacting with other humans. Fall Guys do an amazing job at this, in my opinion, because, this is an immensely popular game and they still just tweet the most random stuff. And that's their kind of personality. And I love it. And I feel like people can connect with that because, everybody's human. And especially when you're on social media, you're not exactly on social media for a real purpose. Let's say you're kind of just, some people use it as like a time waster and some people use it obviously for business and stuff like that. But it's more of like a relaxed environment. So I feel, like if you see these kind of human interactions and you feel like this is a real person behind the other side, then you can connect to it a lot more easier. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. So if you want to chat to me directly, then you can reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter. I also have a website as well, mrmorris.games, if you want to check that out. And I hope we have enough time to take some questions.
There is no way we're getting through all these questions before time.
Really?
So we're gonna go through as many as we possibly can. What we don't get to, and I meant to just post this as a banner and it didn't go. There we go. Whatever we don't get to, we're going to carry over to the post-show channel in our Discord. So if you are out there and you're not on our Discord, it's just very simple, discord.gg/indiegamebusiness. So let's hit it from the top. Would you suggest spending time on one platform more than the other? That's from the first Playbay on.
For me, I started Instagram first. It kind of allows you to learn the ropes of the platform. And then, once you're confident that you have a good handle on that platform, then I would, kind of extend your reach to other platforms as well. So like for me, I feel like I've got Instagram and Twitter kind of okay. And now I think I'm going to hit the Reddit. So I definitely suggest, not taking on too much at once and just go bit by bit.
And so that actually answers the majority of the second question is, how did you end up using Instagram to build your audience and what other channels do you work with? So Twitch.
Yeah, I don't know why I picked it. It was just what I was using at the time most frequently.
All right. So Greech11 from Twitch says, apologies if this was covered, but do you have a rule about following other accounts from your studio account? Does it matter if you're following thousands of accounts from a studio account, or should you keep followers to a minimum?
It doesn't, I don't know. For me, it's like, everybody's to themselves, right? I'm not going to tell you who you should follow, but for me personally, I like to follow people who are in the same industry, who I can get inspired by. I use almost social media personally as a tool to get inspired and to come up with ideas and follow cool people and to motivate me. That's what I use it for.
So from Gamu on Twitch, what clip should I use for a non-action game? They have a dialogue-heavy 2D game.
I would suggest checking out Dude, Where's My Beer? They do a really good job at this sort of stuff. I don't know if you saw it in the slides. I'm a big fan of Dude, Where's My Beer? So I'm shamelessly promoting them right now. Not even shamelessly, just promoting them. They do like good clips. I can't tell exactly or recall exactly what they do, but it's definitely been a few moments where I've kind of seen something I thought, wow, that's kind of clever, and I like that, So check them out.
So, I mean, I'll add briefly there. It doesn't. Your clips don't necessarily need to be actiony. You want the clips to show the heart of your game. So if the heart of your game is, dialogue and in 2D art, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't need, you're not Michael Bay. You don't need explosions every, 3 seconds to get somebody's attention. All right. Is Instagram a secondary social media platform where it cannot really grow without another platform? Twitter, YouTube, Twitter and YouTube advertising it, or can't. Yeah. All right. Let me try that again. So is Instagram a secondary media platform where it cannot grow without another platform advertising it, or can it be used as your main media platform? Nightwolf, I ain't had my coffee yet this morning, so you're asking me hard questions.
Instagram was the first one that I started, and I think I had roughly 6,000 followers before I switched over to Twitter as well. So it can be done from scratch, and I'm really kind of against using advertising. I don't think I've used it on Instagram at all. Because like I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, is like I feel organic has a much, these are people that are actively looking for your game and actively interested. Like their intent is very high. You don't have to convince them to follow you because they've done it themselves. Whereas like, promotional stuff feels like you have to convince them, or you have to have like a good sort of value proposition or something in order for them to follow. But it's definitely possible. You don't need, you like really the core of it is you just need to understand the basics. Like you need to kind of look at how the platform works, draw it out maybe, and then just think, base all of your decisions around that. So you don't need and to be honest, I haven't pushed anybody from my Instagram to Twitter. Like Twitter's its own separate thing. Instagram's its own separate thing. I rarely do any like cross promotional stuff.
All right, we got one from the Discord that I'm going to hit before I forget that we have one on the Discord. How to grow your audience when you start with no followers. After 1 year social media presence, we barely have even 200 followers on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, this is hard. This is very hard. It's definitely the hardest stage. The beginning, of course, it gets a lot easier once you start, getting people to follow. I don't know. I don't really have a good answer. Like I would say you just have to be consistent at it. You have to, use all the pointers that I gave of like sticking to like a visual consistency, a brand, post frequently, and bit by bit. It's really like a game of, drop by drop, you slowly fill the bucket. But it's extremely hard at the beginning. But you just have to be consistent and just keep going, just keep hammering it.
So, along the same lines from Dev Continental on Twitch, how often should you post? I know you covered it, but real quickly, how often should you post to increase that visibility?
I mean, this is the part that I really, really dislike because it pushes, you to kind of stress out about it when, for me, Twitter's a lot more fun because I don't have to stress out so much. But for Instagram, it's a bit more stressful, I feel. And I have noticed like this direct correlation between, the frequency that you post versus how many followers you gain. Like it's quite sad actually, but like it's just important. You just need to do it. And especially at the beginning. But at the beginning, the kind of good thing is that you don't have to worry too much about what people think because, not many people are getting there. So it's kind of a blessing. So you can kind of treat it as just experimental grounds. You can kind of find your feet on the platform. And then once you start finding something that's resonating with people, you leverage that and you start going from there.
So, I mean, along the same lines, what about pairing media platforms, would Twitter or ArtStation work better with Instagram, or, like you said earlier, do you like to keep everything kind of siloed?
It's actually something I've never even considered, to be honest. I haven't really considered like cross promoting or pairing platforms at all. Like I do share content from both platforms on the other platforms, but it's not something that I've thought about too much. It's quite interesting because maybe after this talk, I'm gonna go down and brainstorm a few things.
Oh, all right. So from Lee Hammond over on YouTube, what's usually the conversion rate of someone finding out about your game on Instagram to ending up visiting the store page?
I don't check. I used to check, but now I don't check because it's not about that for me. It's like it's hard because there's so many factors that come into play. First of all, if they're on their mobile phone and they click a link to go to the Storm page, to the Steam page, are they going to really log in at that moment to Steam from their mobile browser to wishlist your game? So like all of these sort of factors come into play. So I don't think you should take it too, like, I don't know, what's the word? You shouldn't be too focused on it, let's say. But conversion rates, I can't really remember. I used to look at it a bit. But to be honest, it's much better just to go to your Steam page and just check your conversion rates. Well, not conversion rates, but just check the wish list that you've got from there. And then you can kind of, almost match it to what you've done on Twitter or what you've done on Instagram. And like if you got a post that gets a lot of profile visits, then you can kind of say, okay, maybe this was the link. This is where the kind of increase of wish list came.
So it's a good, but I will say typical conversion rates, and this is across email newsletters, free to play conversions into if you get more than 5% conversions, you're doing fantastic. That's the general rule. So from James Poole on Twitch, hi Jordan, thanks for the talk. Does social media affect how you work, how you develop your work? For example, do you start by focusing on the visuals?
Yes, I guess so. I am more of a visual person anyway, and that's kind of, when I started making games, that was my strong suit. I felt was just, I already have some sort of background in art. I studied architecture, so like that was my strong suit. And to be honest, I've noticed that when I develop games, then it keeps me motivated to know that if I have something more visual to look at than just code and like boxes. So for me personally, that's just the way I work anyway. But it definitely helps when it translates to making posts for Instagram and stuff like that. So like if I do, I don't know, the main menu, for some reason I feel motivated to do the main menu today, and instead of just having like square boxes with buttons, I would actually just go into Sprite, which is a pixel art tool, and just make some UI elements. And because I've done that and developed that, then I would just transform that into a post later on.
So from Alexis to, I'm not going to try. Again, I haven't had enough coffee to do Twitch names this morning. So do you have any advice on how to start with your social media when you might not have a lot of visual content?
I don't know. Honestly, I think Twitter might be okay. Because it's a lot more text heavy. It comes back to like analyzing the platform itself. If you think about it from that angle, then maybe like if you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of visuals, then you should look for platforms where you can kind of like Twitter, where you can use a lot of text. I think Reddit is also, you can use a lot of text in certain cases, and just kind of go from there and just honestly, you just need to experiment. Like the thing that I see hold people back the most is that they feel like they need to know everything before they can go into doing something. And to be honest, I think that's like the complete wrong approach. Like you should just do and then learn from doing. Like, you'll see if it works and you'll see if it doesn't work. So my advice is just to experiment and just try different platforms and see what you can do and how you can get people to follow and to your game.
So the next one from Blue Goo Games over on YouTube. What are your plans to ramp up the marketing efforts when you get closer to launch of Haiku the Robot? Would you consider paid marketing on any of the social platforms?
Maybe. It depends. It's just I did. Okay, so I spent. This is like a little story time. I spent $200 or 200 euros on Facebook ads for my Kickstarter campaign, and in total I got like 2 backers from it. So my experience wasn't very good. So I'm a bit skeptical, but I thought, what, again, it comes to just experimenting and trying out stuff. I'd give it a try. It's $200, and I mean, people might think that that's a waste, but for me it's like, it's a learning, right? I spent $200 to find out that it's not as easy as it looks, or it's harder than it is, or whatever. So I'm not sure about that. But to ramp up marketing efforts, then I recently went for it with Kickstarter. It's a lot of outreach. It's a lot of reaching out to press sites. It's a lot of reaching out to content creators. It's being active on social media almost 24/7. It's about just being visible from as many places as possible. So I assume that when it gets closer to launch, then that's the kind of marketing efforts that I'll start building up again.
All right, so we've only got time for like another question or two before we've got to roll over. But like I said, if you've got a question for Jordan, he is on our Discord along with 2,000 some other industry professional. So we've got a whole channel set up over there, and you can pop in and ask more questions and continue the conversation. Salem Bros from Twitch says, what do you think about Facebook?
For me personally, I don't use Facebook, and I've stopped using Facebook for... I don't think I ever really got into Facebook either. Like, that's the thing. So for me, I don't I don't see it as something that I use, and therefore I assume that other people don't use it. Although that's not the case, right? You can never base what other people do off of what you do, let's say. But I just haven't used it. Like, it doesn't entice me, and for me it feels like a bit of a dead platform. None of my friends use it. It's also very regional based as well. So I know people in perhaps like Brazil or Latin American countries, they use Facebook a lot more. Like if that's an audience that you can go after, then sure, like, use the platform. But for me, it's just something I don't use at the moment, at least.
All right, we're going to get last question. How important is it to regularly take part in game dev related hashtag campaigns on Twitter? For example, Pitch a Game, shout out to Liam and his crew, even if you don't have much in-game content yet.
Pitch a Game is a great one, and I feel like people are starting to kind of pull Pitch a Game out of context as just something to get you discovered, so to say. But for me, I actually use it as more of a tool to refine my pitch. Like, you actually get good feedback on refining your pitch, and if you can manage to fit it in the little tweet with a link to your store page, then that's perfect, because now you've refined it to like such a short sentence that makes clear, and you can like immediately understand what the game is about. So for like Pitch a Game, I think it's more of a tool. But for Screenshot Saturday and these other ones, I think they're really good. Like, it kind of helps you find similar people to yourself as well. Again, it kind of comes back to this bubble, right? If you use hashtags which are only game dev related and that game devs use, then you're kind of still in that bubble. But my partner did say this, like I was scared at one point that, people who make games don't play games, but that's completely nonsense. Actually, the whole reason why people make games is because they play games and they enjoy playing games. So like the hardest part for me is actually coming up with hashtags which kind of get out of that bubble, like how do you actually reach real players that are interested in following your game and tagging along?
All right. And with that, we got to roll because I've got to get our next speaker lined up. Next up is Natasha Scott, and she's going to be talking about designing immersive experiences. But Jordan, awesome job. Thank you so much for doing this. And he'll be on our Discord. So pop
Thank
over
you.
there, discord.gg/IndieGameBusiness. Yeah, that's all I got. All right. So if you are watching, stick around the channel for like another 3 minutes, and our next session will be up soon. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.